Oh, God, this box is heavy. Where do you want me to put it, Governor? Over there. All right, I'll put it over there. Ah! Hello and welcome to this episode of DungeonFog, where today we continue with our series on designing a village from scratch so that you can use it in any kind of system, any kind of setting really, and have these maps to draw on as you need throughout all of your games. My name is Guy, and today we're looking at designing the warehouse. I just can't go any further than that. So the warehouse is what we're going to look at today. Now, when you look at a warehouse, you go, well, it's a warehouse. Is there really that much to design? Yes and no. The long and short of it, and basically just the long of it, a warehouse is a space where you are going to frequently have characters arriving and engaging, generally speaking, in some kind of violence, be it clandestine or intended, it doesn't matter. Violence is usually why people are in warehouses. They're tracking somebody, they're looking for somebody, they're trying to get somewhere to find some information that's always invariably inside the warehouse. So when we design a warehouse, those are the things that we need to take into consideration. And that means that we're going to have some very specific things that we need to include. Now, before we go any further, I would suggest that what you do is you open up DungeonFog and that you follow along in terms of designing this warehouse, because you know how these videos play out by now. You've watched most of them. So let's get on with it. I've got here a grid that I made. It's 20 by 20, I think. And, well, let's have a look at it now, as a matter of fact. Yes, it's 20 by 20, and we can reshape that how we so choose. But I've gone with 20 for 20 because you don't need to go too much bigger. Now, there are some important things, specifically, about the outside of a warehouse, far more so than any other building. And that's because of the clandestine nature that we often find warehouses employed in. So in this case, I would set my background, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually design the warehouse. So I'm going to leave a little bit of space on both sides of the warehouse. I'm going to come down here, and I can already see that I'm going to increase the size of my map quite substantially. So I'm actually going to come all the way down here and along and up to there. So this is my warehouse. I'm going to change that floor straight away because I don't like that floor in terms of the shape, the pattern that it's given me. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to make this, let's try 200, let's have a look. You know what, even the floor itself, the actual style, I'm not too happy with. Do we want mud? No. Do we want sand? No. Do we want snow? No. Consoles? No. Plating? No. It could really be anything. It's entirely up to you. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to wait for this to go all the way down. Not natural stone. We want wood. This is a wooden floor. Now, interestingly enough, I did not know this until I had visited Finland, but wooden floors in warehouses, again, this is something that I learned, and I'm happy to have learned it, I should say, as well. Wooden floors are often portrayed as the beams lying horizontally across the floor. However, that's not the strongest type of floor that you can build. A better floor is to take the wooden beams, instead of them being horizontal, and turn them vertically, so that you have a shaft that's buried into the ground, so you've got basically just the square top. Now, it creates a fairly uneven surface, but it's a very strong surface for machinery that vibrates and kind of moves around. The cross-planking has a tendency to crack and is not very strong. You're going to brace it everywhere. But by sinking it vertically into the ground, it becomes a lot more stable. I did not know that. And then I discovered a printing press. Well, I was shown a printing press, I should say, and they said yes, that's why they had done that, not because they were completely bonkers. So we are going to increase this by, let's say, 4 at the bottom. So we've now got a space all the way around, which is important. Okay. Now, let's go back to our interior here, and we're going to just create our divisions. Now, generally speaking, the warehouse has the fore section, and then it has a little aft section, a little small room at the back. So I'm just going to do this very quickly. You run down the one length and you run all the way back again, and then you create your space. Now, why do we separate these two areas? Well, invariably, the characters are going to sneak in through the front sometimes, or they're going to sneak in through the back or through the sides. And they can't be immediately seen by the bad guys. That's important for a whole lot of reasons. You want them to get into the warehouse because that's where they're supposed to go. That's where the information is. So you don't want it to be so difficult that they can't actually get there. So we're going to have a look at how to do that. Now, by having a back room, it means that once they've gotten through the front room, they can then get into the back room and then discover a whole bunch of stuff. So this is a typical kind of warehouse. I'm actually also going to do this and just create two little rooms plus a corridor in the middle. You're going to see what we're going to do with that a little bit later on. All right, so let's go and throw in some doors. So we've got double doors for the front of the warehouse, naturally. That's how you bring stuff in and stuff out. I'm actually going to use 3 of them to sort of simulate these big doors that can open up and roll round. Now, we're not going to put a door on this side. We're going to do something else with that. But what we're going to do is we're going to put a door over here on the side. And what this allows us to do is that this could be an alleyway here, just this section here. Could be an alleyway for the characters to be able to move up and down and to find this little door here and then sort of nip in through the side. So that's important. We're also going to put a door here at the back. There you go. Thank you very much. Now, something else that we're going to do at the back here, which I suppose we can do right now, as a matter of fact, is we are going to create a little cordoned off space. Now, it doesn't really matter in this particular instance whether this is a sci-fi space, whether it is a fantasy space. A little loading dock here at the back will not go amiss. It will not be seen by the players as something that's odd. It will, however, allow them access to this little back room. Once they've broken into this back room, by the way, if they're being chased by the goons, which invariably they are, there's always, these strange henchmen running after them, however you want to play it out, whatever dramatic sort of situation you're using. Once they're being chased, they can run into this little courtyard, and then they've invariably got to climb over the wall, or they've got to try and get through that gate. And this gate here would possibly be, if it's medieval, it's a wooden gate. If it's modern day, it's probably a mesh, some kind of fencing type of gate. And if it's science fiction, it's obviously one of those heavy blast doors that they've got to get through the codes for. So as I said, it doesn't really matter how or what setting you're using. Warehouses should always be built in a similar kind of vein. Okay, so we've now put in some doors. Generally speaking, this is going to be the big boss's office, where the several people, or not the big boss's office, I should say, the big office, where several people will sit. It might be a little bit of a space for people to sit and have a coffee, as well as sort of preparing for the day. This side room, this is where the boss's room will be invariably, or the second in command's room, because the warehouse is going to be double story. There's a reason why it needs to be double story as well, from a tropic thematic point of view. So we are going to build a second story onto this one. Okay, now I have pretty much done in terms of our entry points. I'm not going to add on windows. I'm specifically not going to add on windows because windows are very seldom used. I am only going to put in one window, which in a medieval setting I don't think is necessarily appropriate, but it could be if it's a very expensive space, or it could just be archways. It could just be holes in the walls themselves, allowing people to sort of see onto the warehouse floor, if you like, and to lighten up these rooms at the back here, because there are no windows. Another thing that we could do is we could put some windows here for the big boss's room if we wanted to. Again, just thinking about how do we make the space more accessible to our players? And that's it. That's the warehouse. I mean, it would be a miracle if that was the entire video. It is definitely not. But that is, in a nutshell, what one expects to have in a warehouse. We're not nearly done, though, as you can well imagine. Now, I'm going to close all of these up. I'm going to try and find some stairs when we get there. And stairs, here we go. So we want stairs going up. Now the reason why we want stairs going up is that they're going to sit over here. And I know that this feels very modern day, to have an exterior stair landing, if you like. I'm actually going to put 2 of them on top of each other. No, you know what? We're going to go with 3. So it's quite a steep set of stairs going up. And the reason for that, and again, I'm going to do my little trick of doing a shape underneath them to color them differently. The reason why we do that is because these stairs that we will be using, these stairs are specifically designed to give our players the opportunity of getting to the second floor faster if they've done a bit of a scout around. So again, this is an alleyway. There will be stuff on either side that will allow them to sneak down it. You can put in dumpsters if it's a modern day setting. If it's a fantasy setting, you're going to see when I put in some crates and things, because that's the setting that we're working with. So there are many things that can be added to allow your players to get in. And you know that is the focus. That is literally the entirety of the way that I design maps, is how are my players going to get into this space? Because if they can't get into this space, then what exactly are they doing there? Why are they there? How has it got to the point where they are now in a space that they cannot actually access? Because I think that's when they're in a failed space. If they can't utilize why they're there, what is your ultimate goal? What are you thinking in terms of the outcome for them? What potentially could be the outcome for them? To me, it doesn't make sense to deny them accessibility. It doesn't make sense. All right, so we're just going to, I see that it's actually loaded up all of the different settings. I'm going to go just to fantasy now so that I don't have all of the other bits and pieces cluttering up my workspace. So we've got some chairs in there. We said we were going to have a bit of a staff kitchen, kitchenette kind of space here. I can't think of a medieval era actually having a staff kitchen sort of thing, to be perfectly honest with you. But on the other hand, it is quite a nice little sort of throw-in, if you like, that you've got this space where the staff can go and sit, I suppose. If I was arranging this room, I'd probably do something like this. I still want to do a sort of a pimp your dungeon type of scenario. I'm just going to kind of get there. So yeah, maybe you've got some orcs who's sitting here lounging, having a quiet cigarette. One of them's watching out the window whilst they wait for a shipment of, I don't know, illegal spell books, or however you want to, whatever your setup is for your dungeon might be. You've got the big boss's office over there. We'll put some benches back here. Do they have a couch? Does that feel weird? That they have a couch that they can also lounge in? I don't think it feels weird. These kind of common rooms often build up with stuff. How did that get there? Oh, we brought it in once many years ago for this or for that. And you go, well, that's pretty weird. I'm going to put in our deer head here. I'm very, very fond of this deer head. I do wish they would add more, but they're getting there. There's a big update has come out already. There's another big update coming in, which has got me really excited. Okay, now this is the part that I actually wanted to talk about, really more than pretty much anything else. I'm going to throw some crates out the back here to show that this is a rubbish tip of some kind, where they've just kind of chucked out all these broken, just chuck it out. It's no longer useful to anybody. Just make it go away. I don't want to see it anymore. All right. So it's just a sort of rubble pile, again, for the characters to jump into or over or around. I like to have my little water barrel outside collecting rainwater, for mopping the wooden floors, however you know the drill by now. Okay, so when it comes to boxes, there are a couple different boxes that DungeonFog gives you, and it's important to realize how you can use them to help make your stories better. So the very first thing that we're going to do is that the crates are never going to start at the edge of the wall. Now, usually they do, because that's just better packing. But it is also better for the players if they don't, for a very simple reason. We can now have a player character sneak around and avoid being seen, can we not? Because we have not stuck to the idea that putting these things in a logical way is important to us. We're stacking them up and we're going, okay, so there's a pile of boxes over there. You can sneak around. You don't have direct line of sight. We're going to stack some boxes over here. And I mean, you can max it up and sort of say, okay, well, they were just sort of checking out what was in the box. So they didn't unpack it completely. And so we're going to do that. So again, what we're now doing is we're now creating hide spaces, quite literally, for our PCs to utilize and use. Now, the importance is that we can channel them how we want them to go. And that, I think, is a real power of having a map like this. So I don't want the players, when they enter through the double doors, if they do, to go to the right-hand side as they go, or to the left-hand side as they're coming in through those doors. So look at how easy it is. Oops. Don't use caps lock. That's not going to help. We're using shift here to rotate these boxes as we need to. Now, I could set it to auto rotate if I wanted to, but I find that sometimes it's useful and sometimes it's not. Here, where I very specifically want to design shapes to flummox the characters, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to build this wall. Now, look at that. They cannot come to the right unless they're going to climb over these crates. They have to go to the left, I should say. They have to go to the right. And that's important to realize that you have this ability to now say, okay, great. So now they're coming in from here. They've got to go down these two corridors. Could go down there because we want to give them some player agency. And they're going to be able to be hidden from view from these windows as they're coming in through here. Great. Move forward. And it's just a case of varying what you are putting inside this. And we've got so many fantastic things to play with because DungeonFog has done a really great deal. Now I'm actually going to put rotation on for these barrels because the barrels, you don't really see them rotate hugely, but it can be useful. So we're going to put a final barrier here, clinkety clinkety clink, as we have these barrels. And I'm purposely not lining them up. Why am I not lining them up? A, it looks better. It looks more organic, in my opinion. But B, it also helps separate the barrels so it doesn't look like it's just a repeat of barrel texture number 5, barrel, 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 barrel. We don't want to do that. So, and mix it up. Sometimes you've got a full barrel and sometimes you've got an empty barrel. And okay, so they're going to come in through there. They can hide from there. We want them to maybe get stuck down a blind alley down there. So again, you can see the rotators now on and you can see it's quite dramatically rotating them, which again is not a problem if you don't mind how they're stacking. I want to create channels of movement that they need to engage in to force them to go where I want them to go. I'm going to shift it up now. We're going to change some boxes. Now I'm going to turn this auto rotation off because it's irritating me now. And we're going to create this dead end down here. So if they come down here, they are scuppered. Now, what I also need to do is put a crate there. I know it might not make the greatest sense for idiots to have packed the crates there, but the boss would have shouted at them enough already anyway to say, why did you put boxes in front of window, you stupid, or what, huh? Also, because they're coming in here, we need to mask them off from here so they can sort of sneak around there. It creates an interesting movement maze, I think, anyway, in terms of directing where our players not should go, but could go. If they want to rearrange the warehouse as they arrive, knock themselves out, they're good to go. They can do that. I really don't mind. Now, when it comes to traps, designing traps in warehouses, you might go, well, they don't really have traps in warehouses because it's dangerous. Yes, it's absolutely dangerous. What traps are in a warehouse, though, in my opinion, are things like stacks of boxes and things which fall over. That's a great falling boulder trap. Or what about if they climb on top of a box and the top of the box gives way? You've now got a drop trap, haven't you? A box that's full of harpoons that's on the very top shelf and because of the motion of the floorboards falls and drops harpoons down onto people. again, it's about being creative with the space that you're in, and I think just sort of thinking about it, going, yeah, absolutely, that kind of makes sense. I'm going to put some broken debris in here, just again to emphasize the fact that this is a it's sort of a working warehouse, and that there is bits of debris every now and again, and we're going to throw some down here as well, and just rotate it and shrink it to make it feel more real. You've got the ability to make these maps look beautiful, so why not use them? That's my contention. Why not use them? All right, we're not going to put the book there because, as someone rightly pointed out the other day, books are really expensive in the medieval period. Well, theoretically in the medieval period. It depends on your setting, of course. But generally speaking, books are really expensive. So to leave a book just sort of lying around is bad form. Very, very bad form to do. Now, if you notice, this garage pile here, this rubble pile is sticking through the wall, because this is not a room, it's just a freestanding wall. All right, so there we go. So we've now designed this rather intricate pathway that our players can move their characters through, or they could try and move some of these boxes. I don't have a problem if they want to move these boxes around. I really don't. It creates an interesting playing space, and that for me is what's important, is that the characters can do these weird and wonderful shenanigans and sort of get into these tight spots, which should challenge them quite significantly in terms of creativity, in terms of, all right, well, we're down here now. Where do we go from there? How can we use this space to our advantage? Invariably, there's a dog that's going to be running through here anyway. So that is something to think about. Now, something that I have not thought about, like an idiot, and I'm going to add it in very quickly, is I completely forgot about stairs to the second floor. I was so excited about putting boxes in place that we don't have stairs to the second floor. So I'm going to throw in some stairs quickly to the second floor. Those stairs are going to be, I think it actually makes sense for these stairs to be, I want to say there, but that seems very awkward in my opinion. So we want them to be able to go around there. We want them to be able to go around there. The stairs don't extend all the way up there. But what we can do is put the stairs here. So here are stairs going upwards to a little landing area, I suppose. Does that make sense? Maybe the stairs should be down there. Stairs, stairs, stairs. We're going to put the stairs in here. That's what we're going to do. We're going to shrink the stairs down a little bit. And we're going to have stairs going up to the second floor, to the boss's level. And then we're going to put a ladder over here to get up onto that second floor. Easy peasy. Okay, great stuff. What we have not done is we haven't saved recently, so we're going to save very, very quickly. There is, in a nutshell, our ground floor. I don't think there's a huge amount of stuff that we want to add. I might just come in and do the usual kind of trick where we just add in some dirt. Let's just change that up a bit. Where we add in some dirt. Maybe that's too thick. Yeah, we wanted to discolor the template, the original flooring. We don't want it to necessarily change the floor texture altogether. So we'll put a little splodge in there. We'll put some in there. Down here, out here, I think we need to go with a different kind of dirt. Here, earthy soil is quite nice for our purposes. And that's going to lead us out there. And then we want the alleyway. So the alleyway is slightly different too. What about wet mud with grainy patches? That could be interesting. So we're going to just do that running down here and up there to the main street. I'm going to do the same thing coming down this side. I'm going to then change those layers, and then it would run around the back as well. And then of course the road is not dirt. It would be perhaps, say, gravel of some kind. I'm not sure. Let's have a look at this one. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So we're going to do that and we're done. Now, of course, we come in here and we just select this pathway. We go in here. We're going to make this 200 so that it feels more like a pathway. This one, we're going to just make sure this is 200. And then we know that we're done with the ground floor. I'm not putting in lighting. Lighting often takes time. And sometimes you go, well, we don't actually need the map to be beautiful. We need the map to be functional. And I'm trying to keep the time down as well. You can come back and tweak as much as you like. Again, that's the beauty of this program. All right, so there we go. Very, very dull kind of map, very brown kind of map. So we're going to make sure that the second floor is more interesting. So let's go on. We're going to name this first ground floor. And we're going to create a floor on top. We're going to hide the stage. We don't need your stage. Go away. And then we're going to make our floors. Now, this has to be wood, unless it's a really, really fancy kind of warehouse. Yeah, we can go with that. And the walls probably won't be stone at this height either. So we want to go with something that's a different color, but still wood color in essence. Now, maybe this is a double volume. Maybe it isn't. That is entirely up to you. I am going to make this a double volume because I like double volumes, but it's going to be a semi-double volume. We're going to have a balcony over the top. Why do they have a balcony over the top? Because it's dramatic. Quite literally, it's dramatic. Balconies that look down over the warehouse are always fun. For players to be able to sort of see, look down and see what's going on. So we're going to do that, and then whilst I'm here, I am going to finish off the second part of this space, so we can see that it is a double volume, but only this part is the actual standable part, I suppose you could say. All right, so there we go. I'm going to come here, and let's go and... well, we've got our stairs there, so I actually need this to extend out here a little bit. I don't think they would have taken it too far. And we'll plop that in there. And I'm going to change the wall thickness to 0, so it's just a landing. It's nothing else. So you come up the stairs, into the landing, and then we're going to put some doors in place. So there would be a single door, say, here. I think that makes more sense. I'm just going to go to my layering out here to make sure that this room is underneath everything so the wall looks nice. Layering is very, very important. And don't be afraid to kind of change the position of things to get a better look. This is open air. It's not closed off. There's no little roof into this space. So we're good there. We're going to throw in some windows just to again give a sense that this is a working warehouse. If it's in the medieval period, you know the whole thing about windows. They don't do them. Well, not very often anyway. What I'm going to do here to show that this looks out over is I'm going to do this dotted line using the passageway modifier. So we get a sense that this is a balustrade of some description rather than a solid wall. It must feel as if the characters are able to look down into this space. And I think that does a pretty good job of it. Right, let's just finish off this space. So we're still there. We're going to cordon this off, I think. So you walk in here. I would imagine that this would be a little bit of a fleecing room, and then you'd walk into the main room in the warehouse. Now, you can decide how many rooms you want. You really can. It's entirely up to you. I think maybe this is actually too big here. I'm going to bring this back. It doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel like it's overlooking. It feels like it's dominating. And it's not meant to do that. It's meant to just be for a few archers who are going to pose a significant problem to our heroes. One or two archers up there is really going to sort of cramp their style. They're going to have to try and get up there. There is that ladder that we put in place, which we've got to move slightly because I see that that's in the wrong place. So there are a few things that we need to do there. Our stairs coming from down, we can drop in very quickly. Stairs going down, and I believe they are there. So these stairs will go down here. You always need a landing. Not that it really matters too much. I mean, you know. All right, so there are the stairs going down. We've got our wooden ladder, which will be moved. So let's go and move that very quickly. Go to our layers, go to the ground floor. Yeah, there's the ladder, just in the wrong place. It's got to sit somewhere here. So I think I'm going to rotate it and put it this side. No, I'm not. I'm going to leave it here propped up. So that we're going to say this double door doesn't get used very often. Okay, and then we go back up to our level above. So there's our ladder going down. So we can now see that. Right, what else do we need to do? Let's get rid of this grid because it's getting quite dominant now that we're double gridding basically, because it's a grid below plus a grid above. All right, and this side, this is really pretty much just decorate as needed, adding in whatever it is you feel is of value. So one of the things that we're going to add in here is we're going to add in a ship. No, the reason why I'm looking at the fantasy pirates section, which you get, I believe, if you are a subscriber, is this latch, this hatch. I want to build in front of the boss's big space, and maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. I wanted a trapdoor that's going to cause them to fall through into the lower layer below. But that is also going to allow our characters to hear, if they get into the below deck, they can hear stuff sort of coming up from downstairs as well. I think it's a choice. It's a choice. You don't have to go with that choice necessarily. Okay, so once again, we probably would find that there are a few choice boxes that have been sort of stacked up here, valuable goods and the like. We want to continue the theme that this is a working warehouse. Maybe not necessarily overdo it with all sorts of things. There's a door that I've forgotten to put in. If only it was as easy as in real life. I think this should be a double door, actually. When you're walking into the boss's big office, because that's what this space would be. And I think that we're going to put in some windows here, even if it is the medieval period. They're sort of splashed out over for these windows. All right, so we've got this sort of space. Now we can make it feel big bossy, I suppose. Go with decoration. I want that bear carpet here, bear rug, and the bear rug is going to sit. It's a big bear that got mauled. We're going to put it so that as you come up the stairs, there is this bear facing you, and I like that idea because it gives you a descriptive scare for the players. As you come up the stairs, this giant bear looks down at you, and then you realize it's actually a carpet. I think that's quite fun. Okay, I'm just going to use my usual sort of bookshelf filling. People always need bookshelf. I always need a bookshelf, so I assume that my monsters and villains will always need a bookshelf as well. And yes, I am assuming that it is a villain who has occupancy here. You want them to stand right in front of this large desk that the villain has. I'm going to double up on this wooden desk so that it's a bit bigger. I don't want it to be wider, I just want it to be longer. He's going to have a chair that he sits on. It doesn't have to be a very ostentatious chair, and there'll be a chair here and a chair here just over that hatch, so he can pull a lever and watch with glee as they fall through to the floor below. It won't kill anyone, and they're not dropping into a rancor pit. That's not the purpose. The purpose is that they're being kicked out of his room at his decision, not at their decision, and that kind of gives him the authority that these people so often like to excise over their lackeys and things. Let's give them a chest, because if they do break in, there's invariably a chest somewhere for them to claim their prize. I'll throw that in there. I think that's pretty much it in terms of room decoration. Maybe what we could do, because they do have quite a nice one, is we put a little armor rack. I don't, the castle certainly had these things sort of littered all over the place to show power and prestige, but I kind of feel like it needs to go in a corner, or maybe we put it there, so as you sort of walk in, you see this face, and then I'm going to put a mace here on the table, just to indicate that it's a dangerous place to visit. Whether the players see that or not doesn't matter. Anyway, so there's a mace there. It makes me feel better. What we could do for some flavour is you could put an archery target at the very end down here, and the Lord practices his archery by firing down this range. That's up to you. I'm just going to throw in some barrels here that sort of got delivered at the wrong time. Again, it's about creating things that the player characters could say, well, can I throw that barrel down? Yes, of course you can. You've climbed up here. You should be able to take advantage of that height now and have fun whilst doing it. That's the bottom line, is that you've got to make these spaces fun to play in. Because I think that's the ultimate goal of every map designer anyway, is that people go, oh, it was so much fun. Oh, we climbed up the second set of stairs, we broke in, we got into the office, we did this, we did this. That for me is what makes a map fun, is where the characters or the players have those kinds of experiences. And just a little bit off angle, and we're done. Okay, so I think that is a pretty serviceable. Let's do our usual trick. Dirty it up a little bit, you dirty wall, you. Yeah, look at you. You're going to walk through into the boss's room. Okay, and a little bit down there. That might be a bit thick, actually. That's better. Subtle, but there, nonetheless. So there we have, I think, a very serviceable, very workable warehouse. And the thought that we've put into it, let's just go down here. The thought that we've put into it is, how do we make it an obstacle course? How do we build in traps that are going to make our players keep on their toes? And how do we let them get in and out of this blasted space without too much difficulty? And I think we've got there. I also think that I've got a wooden floor set as my base here. I'm trying to see what's going on. Did I? No, it's dirt. It's meant to be dirt. Let's change the dirt. There we go. It's dirt again. So we've got this very usable space in a standard warehouse. Now, if we transpose this warehouse into science fiction or into modern day, nothing changes. The only thing that gets added is perhaps it's now security cameras rather than watchdogs and orcs. It's now robots instead of archers, or laser beams instead of pressure plates or traps. It's the layout and the intention remains the same. So you could take this now and replicate it easily enough in DungeonFog, and then transfer all of these into science fiction crates. And the thinking, the ethos, is still going to stay the same. The warehouse itself becomes the challenge. It's not just a giant empty room that the characters come into. It could be a giant empty room if that's the very specific reason that it's there to impress and to give the players no sense of safe outcome. But if it is designed for them to break into so that they can sneak around and overhear conversations and rescue the prince who has been abducted by the blackmailers or whatever, by using then your different levels, your different things that you have available to you, you can create these much more interesting spaces. Now imagine if they split up and the goons come running out from these two doors. The goons are going to split up and go on left and right. The players can sort of ambush them however they like. So anyway, those are my thoughts, save, on how to create an interesting warehouse within your village. Now, next week basically sees us come to the end of designing a village, where we design the houses that go into that village. And house design is fairly straightforward, but there are one or two things that we often overlook which make our houses seem just that much more lived in, I suppose you could say. Until next week, however, I wish you and yours the very happiest of map making.